The emergency beacon cut through space like a scream. High Counselor Vextar watched the red warning lights flash across the central command center of the Galactic Council station. His long blue fingers trembled as he read the message from the Zephyrian colony. Colony 7 Alpha is under attack. Unknown hostile forces. Need immediate help. They are destroying everything. Please send aid now. That was 3 days ago. Since then, nothing but silence. Vextar looked around the circular chamber where representatives from 12 different species sat in worried silence. The Galactic Council had kept peace for over 300 years. Wars were things of the past. Their ships were built for exploration, trade, and rescue missions, not for fighting. High Counselor, said Ambassador Kretok from the insect-like Chitauri Empire. Her mandibles clicked nervously. The rescue fleet we sent to help the Zephyrians has also gone silent. Vextar felt his second heart skip a beat. The rescue fleet had 20 ships. Good ships with the best defensive shields in the galaxy. If they were gone too, then whatever attacked the Zephyrians was something terrible. What about the second fleet? Asked General Morden of the rock-skinned Quarians. His voice sounded like grinding stone. Lost contact 12 hours ago, Kretok replied. Just like the first one. The chamber fell silent again. 40 ships. Gone. Along with thousands of crew members and an entire Zephyrian colony of 50,000 beings. The attack had started in the rim worlds, far from the galactic center. But it was moving inward. Vextar pulled up the galactic map on the main display. Red markers showed where the attacks had happened. The pattern was clear. Whatever this enemy was, they were working their way toward the more populated systems. We need to know what we are fighting, said Dr. Yelana, the chief scientist. Her large eyes blinked slowly as she studied the data. Our long-range sensors show massive energy signatures, but the readings make no sense. What do you mean? Vexitar asked. The energy output is huge, bigger than anything we have ever seen, and there are many of them, hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. The room grew cold despite the climate controls. Hundreds of enemy ships that could destroy their best fleets without even sending a distress call. The Galactic Council had never faced anything like this. We could try sending our main defense fleet, suggested General Mordoon, all our best ships together. That would leave the core worlds undefended, Kretok pointed out. If this enemy is as powerful as it seems, we might just be giving them more targets. Vextar knew she was right. The Galactic Council's military was designed to stop small conflicts between member worlds. Their biggest weapons were crowd control devices and shield generators. They had never needed anything stronger. For 300 years, the galaxy had been at peace. Different species traded with each other, shared technology, and worked together to explore new worlds. The idea of a war that could destroy entire solar systems was something from ancient history. High Counselor, Dr. Yelana said quietly, there is one option we have not discussed. Everyone turned to look at her. Her small, furry face looked worried. The humans. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several ambassadors began talking at once. General Morden's rocky face showed clear disgust. The Deathworlders? He rumbled. Absolutely not. Vextar raised his hand for silence. The humans. Earth had been discovered 25 years ago. When the Council's scout ships first visited the third planet of the Sol system, they had been horrified by what they found. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. Its gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was poisonous to most galactic species. Violent storms covered the planet. Deadly radiation from the local star made the surface dangerous. And somehow, intelligent life had evolved there. The humans were even more shocking than their planet. They were predators. Aggressive, unpredictable, and violent. Their entire history was one war after another. They had weapons that could destroy their own planet several times over. When the Council made first contact, humanity was actually fighting several wars at the same time. The Council had made a simple decision. Humans were too dangerous to be full members. They were given basic trade rights and a small embassy station in their system, but they were kept away from the peaceful galactic community. Most council members pretended humans did not exist. Dr. Yelena, Vextar said carefully, what exactly are you suggesting? The humans come from a death world, she explained. They understand violence in ways we do not. Their ships are built for war, not exploration. If anyone could fight this enemy, it would be them. They are barbarians, General Morden said. They solve every problem with violence. Maybe that is exactly what we need right now, Dr. Yelena replied. Ambassador Kreetalk's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign she was thinking hard. The humans do have a strong military. Our intelligence reports say they have been building warships since they joined the galactic community. Why would they do that? Asked Vextar. Because they think like predators, General Morden answered with disgust. They expect enemies everywhere. Dr. Yelena looked around the chamber. Maybe they were right to think that way. The debate continued for hours. Some ambassadors refused to even consider asking for human help. Others worried that the humans might be worse than whatever was attacking the Rim worlds. But as more reports came in, the situation became clear. 3 more colonies had gone silent. The enemy was moving faster now. At this rate, they would reach the core worlds within weeks. Finally, Vextar called for a vote. It was close, but the decision was made. They would contact Earth. High Counselor, said Ambassador Kreetalk. What if the humans refuse to help? Vexatar looked at the red markers spreading across the galactic map. Each one represented millions of dead beings. Then we will face this enemy alone, he said, and hope our peaceful ways are enough. But deep in his 2 hearts, Vextar knew the truth. Peace had protected them for 3 centuries. But now something had come from the dark between stars. Something that did not care about their peaceful ways. Maybe it was time to call the predators. The message to Earth was sent that same day. A simple distress call asking for help. The first official communication from the Galactic Council to humanity in over 10 years. None of them knew what they had just unleashed. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, reading the message for the 3rd time. 25 years in the Space Force, and she had never seen anything like this. Admiral, said Captain Rodriguez, her chief of staff. The Galactic Council is actually asking for our help. Sarah nodded slowly. The same aliens who had treated humanity like dangerous children were now begging for assistance. The message was formal and polite, but she could read the desperation between the lines. Unknown hostile forces. Multiple colonies destroyed. Their fleets completely eliminated. No survivors. What do we know about these Zephyrians? She asked. Lieutenant Commander Park pulled up a file on the main screen. Peaceful species. They have been part of the Council for about 200 years. Their colonies are in the rim sectors far from the galactic center. And the Council's military response? 2 rescue fleets sent to help. Both destroyed with no distress calls. Total of 40 ships lost. Sarah whistled softly. The Council's ships were advanced, even if they were built more for show than fighting. Whatever had destroyed them was serious. Admiral, said General Morrison, joining them from Earth's surface via hologram. The President wants to know our recommendation. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the attack pattern. Her military mind immediately saw what the Council had missed. This is not a random attack, she said. Look at the targets. They hit the rim colonies first, then moved inward. They are testing the Council's response time and military strength. A scouting force? Captain Rodriguez asked. Or the first wave of an invasion, Sarah replied. Either way, whoever this is, they know how to fight a war. General Morrison leaned forward. The Council has never been friendly to us. Why should we help them now? It was a fair question. For 25 years, humanity had been treated like the galaxy's unwanted relatives. They were given basic trade rights but kept out of all important decisions. Council ships were not even allowed to dock at human stations without special permission. But Sarah had been thinking about this moment for years. General, she said, what happens if this enemy destroys the Council? We would be the only major military power left in the galaxy, Morrison answered. Exactly. And then this enemy would turn their attention to us. Better to fight them now with allies than later by ourselves. Sarah turned to her staff. Begin mobilization of Battle Fleet 7. I want the Dreadnoughts ready to move in 72 hours. Captain Rodriguez looked surprised. Admiral, the Council only asked for assistance. Maybe a small task force would be enough. Sarah shook her head. Captain, the Council sent 40 ships against this enemy. Good ships with experienced crews. They were all destroyed without getting off a single distress call. This is not a problem for a small task force. She pulled up Earth's military organization chart. Signal battle fleets 3, 7, and 12. Full mobilization. I want every dreadnought carrier, cruiser, and destroyer ready for deep space operations. The command center went quiet. 3 full battle fleets meant over 300 ships. It was the largest human military deployment since the Unification Wars. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Park said carefully, that is a lot of firepower for a rescue mission. This is not a rescue mission, Sarah replied. This is a war. She had spent years studying the reports from the Rim worlds. Strange energy signatures, ships that appeared and disappeared without using known jump technology, attacks that left no survivors and no evidence. Sarah had read the files that the Council thought were classified. She knew about the ancient warnings found in some of the oldest ruins, stories of machine intelligences that consumed entire civilizations. Most Council scientists thought they were just myths, but humans understood something that the peaceful galactic species did not. When someone showed up with overwhelming force and started destroying colonies, you did not send a police force to arrest them. You sent an army to stop them. General Morrison, she said, I need authorization for Operation Dreadnought. Morrison's hologram flickered as he paused. Operation Dreadnought was humanity's contingency plan for a galactic-scale conflict. It had been developed right after first contact, when human strategists realized how defenseless the peaceful alien civilizations really were. You think it is that serious? Morrison asked. General, somebody just wiped out 40 Council ships without taking a single casualty. They are moving toward the core worlds in a clear invasion pattern, and they have technology we do not understand. She paused, then added, if we are going to fight them, we need to hit them with everything we have. No half measures. Morrison nodded slowly. I will talk to the President. But Sarah, if we do this, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Good, Sarah said firmly. Maybe it is time they understood what we really are. Over the next 72 hours, human space exploded into activity. Ships that had been in storage were brought online. Crews were recalled from leave. Weapon systems were tested and loaded. Supply ships gathered food, ammunition, and spare parts for a long campaign. The Dreadnoughts were the centerpieces of the fleet. Each one was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. They were built using lessons learned from humanity's long history of warfare. Heavy armor, powerful shields, and weapons designed to kill other warships. The Council had been horrified when they learned about the Dreadnoughts. Such massive warships had no place in a peaceful galaxy, they said. Humans had agreed to limit their number and keep them in human space. Now Sarah was about to show the galaxy why humans built such ships. Admiral, Captain Rodriguez reported, all fleets ready for departure. Total strength, 315 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing her assembled fleet. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Each ship represented humanity's determination to survive in a dangerous universe. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Tell them help is coming. She paused, then smiled grimly. And send a message to all ships. Remind them that we are not just representing Earth today. We are representing every human who ever looked up at the stars and refused to be afraid. The fleet jumped to hyperspace 6 hours later, the largest human military force ever assembled, heading toward an enemy that had already proven they could destroy anything the galaxy could send against them. But the galaxy had never sent Deathworlders before. The Zephyrian system was dying when the human fleet arrived. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought Indomitable, watching the tactical display with growing anger. 3 planets that had once held millions of beings were now dark, lifeless rocks. Admiral, reported Commander Hayes from the sensor station, I am reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever did this is still here. Sarah studied the display. Strange contacts moved between the planets, too large to be ships but clearly artificial. The energy readings were unlike anything in human databases. Signal from the Council observer ship, announced Lieutenant Park. They are requesting permission to approach. Granted, and open a channel. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of a small council vessel. High Counselor Vextar appeared, his blue skin pale with shock. "Admiral Chen," he said, "we are grateful for your assistance, but I must warn you. This enemy is unlike anything we have faced. They destroyed our fleets without—" His words were cut off as alarms began sounding throughout the Indomitable. Commander Hayes looked up from his station, his face grim. "Admiral, we have contacts emerging from hyperspace. Massive signatures bearing 27 Mark V. The main display switched to a tactical view. Sarah felt her breath catch as the enemy ships appeared. They were not ships at all, but vast mechanical constructs the size of asteroids. Their surfaces crawled with smaller machine units, and energy weapons began charging with visible light. "Analysis?" Sarah snapped. "Artificial intelligence constructs," reported Commander Hayes. "No life signs. The ships appear to be self-replicating machines. I count 37 primary units with hundreds of smaller attack craft." Sarah had read about things like this in the ancient records. The galaxy's oldest civilizations had left warnings about machine intelligences that consumed organic life. Most species thought they were myths, but humans had learned to take old warnings seriously. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Battle Formation Alpha. All Dreadnoughts to the front line. Carriers launch all fighters. Admiral." Vextar's voice came over the comm, filled with panic. "You cannot engage them directly. They destroyed 40 of our ships without taking damage." Sarah looked at the alien on her screen. "High Counselor, with respect, your ships were built for exploration and peacekeeping. Ours were built for war." She turned to her weapons officer. "Target the largest construct. All Dreadnoughts prepare for coordinated strike." The enemy responded first. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the machine ships, striking the lead elements of Sarah's fleet. The destroyer Yorktown took a direct hit, its shields flaring and failing, but the ship did not explode. Its armor held, and it returned fire with every weapon it had. "Damage report on Yorktown," Sarah called out. "Hull breach on Deck 7, but she is still fighting," came the reply. Sarah smiled grimly. The Council ships had been destroyed instantly, because they were never designed to take damage. Human ships were built by a species that understood war meant getting hurt. All Dreadnoughts opened fire. 12 massive warships fired at once. Hundreds of nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, and railguns targeted the enemy constructs. The space between the fleets lit up like a new star. The largest machine construct staggered under the impact. Parts of its hull blew apart, scattering debris across space. But it did not stop. Instead, it began moving toward the human fleet, its remaining weapons charging. "It is adapting," Commander Hayes reported. "The construct is redistributing power to its damaged sections." That was when Sarah realized what they were really fighting. These were not just machines. They were intelligent, adaptive, and designed to learn from each battle. No wonder they had swept through the peaceful Council world so easily. But humans had advantages that the Council species did not. "Launch the Marines," she ordered. "Admiral?" Commander Hayes looked confused. "You heard me. I want assault shuttles on that construct. Marines with boarding equipment." The tactical officer stared at her. "Ma'am, that thing is hostile alien technology. We do not know what the atmosphere is like inside, or even if there is an inside." "Then we will find out," Sarah replied. "Signal Major Harrison. Tell him his boys are going hunting." What happened next shocked everyone watching, especially the Council observers. Human assault shuttles, each carrying 30 armed Marines, launched from the fleet carriers and headed straight for the enemy constructs. The machines tried to stop them with defensive fire, but the shuttles were small and fast. Most made it through. "This is insane," Vextar whispered on the comm channel. "You cannot board an artificial intelligence." "Watch us," Sarah replied. The Marine assault was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human soldiers wearing powered armor and carrying weapons designed to work in any environment cut their way into the machine constructs. They fought through corridors filled with deadly automated defenses, using tactics learned from centuries of warfare. The machines had been programmed to fight fleets and destroy planets. They had no experience with infantry combat inside their own hulls. "Major Harrison reporting," came the voice from inside the largest construct. "We have reached what looks like a central processing core. Planting charges now." The explosion was visible from the outside as the machine construct broke apart. Its smaller units suddenly stopped moving as if they had lost their central command. But the other constructs adapted quickly. They began moving closer together, supporting each other with overlapping fire. The battle was far from over. "Admiral," reported Commander Hayes. Enemy reinforcements arriving. I count 60 more constructs entering the system. Sarah looked at the tactical display. Nearly 100 machine ships against her 300 human vessels. In any normal space battle, the humans would have been outnumbered and outgunned. But this was not a normal space battle. Signal all ships, she ordered. We are not here to have a fair fight. We are here to win. Use everything we have. The human fleet responded with a violence that stunned the watching council observers. Nuclear weapons, particle beams, kinetic projectiles, and exotic energy weapons filled space with destruction. Human fighters swarmed over the enemy constructs like angry insects, targeting weak points and weapon systems. Most importantly, the humans fought with a coordination and aggression that the machines could not match. They used every dirty trick, every underhanded tactic, every brutal strategy that humanity had developed over thousands of years of warfare. The machines were intelligent, but they had been programmed by a species that thought like machines, logical, predictable, efficient. Humans thought like predators. Enemy fleet breaking formation, Commander Hayes reported with amazement. They are retreating. Sarah watched as the surviving machine constructs pulled back toward the system's edge. For the first time in their recorded history, the ancient intelligences had met an enemy they could not immediately destroy. Do we pursue? Asked the weapons officer. Sarah shook her head. No, let them go. Let them report back to whoever sent them. She opened a channel to the council observer ship. Vexitar was staring at her with a mixture of awe and fear. High Counselor, she said calmly. I believe we need to talk. The first battle was over, but both sides knew this was just the beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place aboard the massive station orbiting Centris Prime, the galactic capital. High Counselor Vexitar looked around the packed chamber as representatives from dozens of species watched the tactical recordings from the Zephyrian system. On the main display, human marines could be seen cutting their way through machine corridors while dreadnoughts pounded enemy constructs with weapons that made the councils. Best ships look like toys. This is incredible, whispered Dr. Yelana. The humans actually boarded the enemy ships. Ambassador Kreetalk's mandibles clicked rapidly. Their weapons technology is far beyond what we believed possible. Those dreadnoughts have more firepower than our entire defense fleet. But it was not just the weapons that had shocked the council. It was how the humans fought. The tactical recordings showed human ships deliberately taking damage to protect alien colonies. Destroyers with broken hulls continuing to fight until their reactors went critical. Marines charging into certain death to save Zephyrian civilians who had been trapped in emergency shelters. They fight like madmen, said General Morden, but his voice carried respect instead of disgust, no regard for their own safety. Not madmen, Dr. Yelana corrected. Predators. They understand something we forgot long ago. What is that? Asked Vexitar. Sometimes the only way to save lives is to be willing to take them. The recordings continued. The Battle of Kepler Station, where human fighters had held off machine swarms while evacuating 3 million Altarian refugees. The defense of Proxima Colony, where a single human cruiser had fought 12 enemy constructs long enough for the colony ships to escape. In each battle, the pattern was the same. The machines would arrive with overwhelming force, expecting easy victory like they had found against council fleets. Instead, they met humans who fought with a savagery and determination that their programming could not understand. The enemy has changed tactics, reported Admiral Chen via hologram from her flagship. They are no longer attacking isolated colonies. They are massing their forces for a major offensive. The tactical display showed enemy movements throughout the rim territories. Hundreds of machine constructs were gathering in the Veil Nebula, far from any inhabited systems. What are they planning? Asked Vexitar. They are learning, Sarah replied. Each battle teaches them more about our capabilities. They know now that small raids will not work, so they are preparing for total war. The chamber fell silent. Totalva. The concept was foreign to most council species. They had conflicts, territorial disputes, and trade disagreements. But total war meant the complete destruction of one side or the other. Admiral Chen, said Ambassador Kreetalk carefully, our intelligence suggests the enemy force in the Veil Nebula numbers in the thousands. Even with your impressive fleet, how can you hope to defeat such numbers? Sarah's expression on the hologram was grim but determined. Ambassador, we cannot defeat them in the Veil Nebula. The terrain favors their tactics and they would have too much room to maneuver. Then what do you propose? Asked General Morden. We make them come to us. We choose the battlefield. Sarah activated a stellar map showing the core systems of the galaxy. The enemy wants to destroy all organic life. That means they have to come through the established jump routes to reach the populated worlds. She highlighted several star systems along the main hyperspace lanes. We fortify these choke points. Turn them into killing grounds. Force the enemy to attack where we are strongest. Dr. Yelena studied the map. That would mean abandoning the rim territories completely. Millions of beings would be left defenseless. No, Sarah said firmly. We evacuate them. Every civilian, every colony, every outpost. Bring them back to the core systems where we can protect them. The scope of such an operation was staggering. Hundreds of worlds would need to be evacuated. Billions of beings relocated. It would be the largest humanitarian effort in galactic history. The logistics alone would be impossible, protested General Morden. We do not have enough ships. We do now, Sarah replied. Every human cargo vessel, passenger liner and transport ship is being converted for evacuation duty. We can move 50 million beings per week if we start immediately. Vexitar looked around the chamber. The Council had spent centuries building a peaceful, prosperous civilization. Now they were being asked to abandon huge sections of it to save the rest. What guarantee do we have that your plan will work? He asked. Sarah's image leaned forward. High Counselor, I cannot guarantee victory. War never comes with guarantees, but I can promise you this. If we fight them in the core systems with prepared defenses and unified command, we have a chance. And if we lose, then at least we will have fought as one people instead of dying as separate species. The vote was closer than Vexitar had expected. Some ambassadors wanted to try negotiating with the machines. Others proposed hiding in the galactic center and hoping the enemy would pass them by. But the recordings from the battles spoke louder than words. The humans had done something no Council fleet had managed. They had made the ancient enemy retreat. The evacuation began immediately. Human transport ships working alongside Council vessels began the massive task of relocating entire populations. It was chaos on a galactic scale, but somehow it worked. The humans had brought more than weapons to the fight. They had brought organization, logistics, and the kind of large-scale planning that came from a species used to global conflicts. Admiral, Vexitar said during one of their regular briefings, your people have surprised us all. We expected barbarians, but you fight with honor. Sarah smiled grimly. High Counselor, there is nothing honorable about war. We do not fight with honor. We fight to win. Is there a difference? Honor is a luxury for peacetime, Sarah replied. In war, the only thing that matters is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. As the evacuation continued, reports arrived from the rim territories. The machine forces were moving, just as Sarah had predicted. Thousands of constructs emerging from the Veil Nebula, heading toward the core systems. The final battle was coming. But for the first time since the crisis began, the Galactic Alliance had something they had never possessed before. A real chance of survival. The Deathworlders had brought more than Dreadnoughts to the fight. They had brought hope. The Battle of Centris Gate would be remembered as the day the galaxy learned what humans really were. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the tactical display as thousands of machine constructs emerged from hyperspace. The enemy had finally committed their full force, just as she had hoped they would. Enemy fleet composition confirmed, reported Commander Hayes. 4,307 major constructs, with approximately 50,000 smaller attack craft. The numbers were staggering. Even with the combined Council and human fleets, they were outnumbered 10-1. But Sarah had not chosen this battlefield for favorable odds. She had chosen it because here, numbers did not matter as much. Centris Gate was a natural choke point in space, where gravitational anomalies from 3 nearby neutron stars created a narrow corridor through hyperspace. Any fleet traveling to the core systems had to pass through this single point, and Sarah had turned it into the most heavily defended position in galactic history. Signal. All defensive platforms, she ordered. Begin the welcome party. What happened next stunned even the experienced human crews. The seemingly empty space around Centris Gate suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Hidden defense platforms, stealth mines, and automated gun stations opened fire on the enemy fleet. But these were not the elegant, precision weapons the Council preferred. These were human weapons. Brutal, simple, and devastatingly effective. Nuclear mines detonated among the enemy formations. Railgun platforms fired tungsten slugs at relativistic speeds. Particle beam arrays designed to crack asteroids focused their fire on enemy command ships. The machine constructs staggered under the assault, but they adapted quickly. Their formation shifted, smaller units moving forward to absorb the defensive fire while the larger ships prepared their own weapons. Phase 1 complete, reported the tactical officer. Enemy advance slowed but not stopped. Sarah nodded. The defensive platforms had never been meant to stop the enemy. They were meant to disrupt their formation and force them into a killing ground. All fleets, engage at will, she ordered. The combined human and council fleet emerged from behind the gravitational shields of the neutron stars. 300 human warships and 200 council vessels, arranged in a formation that maximized their firepower while protecting the more fragile alien ships. The humans had spent weeks training with their new allies, teaching them tactics that no peaceful species had ever needed to learn: how to concentrate fire on single targets, how to use larger ships to protect smaller ones, how to fight as a unified force instead of individual units. Most importantly, they had taught them how to be ruthless. Target the command constructs first, Sarah broadcast to all ships. Break their coordination, then roll up their flanks. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human dreadnoughts traded fire with machine constructs 10 times their size, their nuclear warheads punching through alien armor that had withstood the test of millennia. Council ships, no longer trying to fight with elegant precision, poured continuous fire into enemy formations. The peaceful species that had spent centuries avoiding conflict discovered they could be just as deadly as any predator when their survival was at stake. But it was the human Marines who truly shocked the watching galaxy. As the fleet battle raged around them, assault shuttles launched from human carriers and headed straight for the largest enemy constructs, not just 1 or 2 boarding actions, but hundreds of them simultaneously. "This is impossible," whispered High Counselor Vextar from his observer ship. "They are boarding the entire enemy fleet." Dr. Yelena watched in amazement as the tactical display showed human units fighting inside dozens of machine ships at once. They are not just fighting the enemy. They are taking them apart from the inside. It was true. Human Marines, supported by combat engineers and demolition specialists, were systematically destroying the machine intelligences from within. They cut power lines, planted explosives in reactor cores, and physically destroyed the processing centers that controlled each construct. The machines had been designed to fight other machines. They understood fleet tactics, energy weapons, and shield technology, but they had no defense against beings who climbed inside their bodies and started breaking things. "Major Harrison to Fleet Command," came a voice over the comm. "Primary target neutralized. Moving to secondary objectives." Sarah watched as the largest enemy construct went dark, its weapon systems failing as human demolition charges destroyed its central intelligence core. Around it, other machine ships began showing similar signs of internal damage, but the enemy was learning. The newer constructs began venting their atmospheres and filling their corridors with radiation, trying to kill the boarding parties. It did not work. Human Marines in powered armor continued their assault, immune to environmental hazards that would have killed most galactic species instantly. "Admiral," reported Commander Hayes, "enemy fleet is breaking formation. They are attempting to withdraw." Sarah looked at the tactical display. Nearly half the machine fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors were pulling back toward the hyperspace exit, trying to escape the killing ground. "All ships, pursue and destroy," she ordered. "Do not let them regroup." The chase that followed lasted for 6 hours. Human ships built for endurance and long-range operations hunted down the fleeing machines with relentless efficiency. Council vessels, inspired by their allies' determination, fought with a savagery their ancestors had forgotten. When it was over, less than 200 enemy constructs had escaped. The rest were debris floating in the vacuum around Centris Gate. "Admiral," said Commander Hayes quietly, "we are receiving surrender signals from the remaining enemy units." Sarah stared at the tactical display. Surrender signals from machines that had shown no mercy to anyone in their path. "Put me on general broadcast," she ordered. Her image appeared on screens throughout the human and council fleets. and on the observation ships where representatives from dozens of species watched in stunned silence. "To all enemy units," she said clearly, "you came to our galaxy seeking to destroy all organic life. You found us instead. You now have two choices. You can leave this galaxy and never return, or you can join the debris field around Centris Gate." The response came immediately. The surviving machine constructs jumped to hyperspace, fleeing toward the galactic rim and the dark space beyond. For the first time in their recorded history, the ancient machine intelligences had been defeated. The celebration that followed lasted for days. Across the galaxy, beings who had been evacuated from their homes began the long journey back. Colonies that had been abandoned were reoccupied. The great experiment in galactic cooperation had succeeded, but it was the ceremony at Centris Station that marked the real change. High Counselor Vextar stood before the assembled representatives of 100 species. Behind him, the tactical display showed the new galactic defense grid. Human dreadnoughts stationed at every major hyperspace junction. Council ships working alongside human crews. A unified command structure that could respond to any threat. "The galaxy has learned something important these past months," he said. "Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is the presence of those willing to fight for it." He turned to Admiral Sarah Chen, who stood beside him in her dress uniform. "Admiral, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally request that humanity take its place as a full member of our alliance. Not as junior partners, but as equals." Sarah looked out at the assembled representatives. Some of them still showed fear when they looked at her, but there was also respect and something that had not been there before. Trust. "High Counselor," she said, "humanity accepts, but we come with conditions. Name them. Never again will any species face extinction alone. Never again will the galaxy be unprepared for war, and never again will anyone mistake our desire for peace as weakness." The vote was unanimous. Later, as the ceremonies ended and the representatives returned to their ships, Vextar found himself alone with Admiral Chen on the station's observation deck. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. We treated your people badly because we were afraid of what you might do." Sarah looked out at the stars where human and alien ships moved together in formation. "High Counselor, you were right to be afraid. We are dangerous. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, and we survived by becoming predators." She turned to face him. "But you forgot something important. Predators do not just hunt. They also protect their pack." Vextar considered this. "And we are your pack now?" Sarah smiled, and for the first time it did not frighten him. "High Counselor, the galaxy is our pack now, and we will protect it." In the months that followed, human dreadnoughts took up permanent positions throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as guardians. The peaceful species continued their exploration and trade, knowing that somewhere in the dark between stars, Deathworlders stood watch. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the best way to preserve peace was to befriend those who understood war. And humanity had learned something too. Being dangerous was not something to be ashamed of, as long as you used that danger to protect those who could not protect themselves. The stars were safer now.